law at high spirits po mga legislators kanina. Kasama natin si Speaker. Of course, the President was there together with the members of the Cabinet and several members of the Senate and the House of Representatives. Na po ang Pangulo and the economic team to be able to highlight the Maharlika Investment Fund to the world for other investors to come in and support the fund. So, binanggit din po ng Pangulo na excited na rin po sila mag-umpisa ng o magsagawa na ng mga list of priority projects for the Maharlika Investment Fund. So, hopefully in the SONA, may babanggit po siya ng mga concrete projects for the use of the fund.
Was there any request or say instruction or advice from the President kasi because the Congress will have an oversight committee, di ba?
Yes. Wala naman. Yung statement niya kanina, yung speech niya was the general speech. Po siya sa mga haka-haka, yung mga kritisismo na kung hindi, sabi daw, and I'm saying verbatim, sabi ni Presidente, ang akala ng tao, bibili kami ng mga yate, ng mga aeroplano, na nakawin namin yung pera. And he said that Congress has put enough safeguards. First of all, hindi mangyayari yun under his watch. And secondly, sabi niya, napakaraming safeguards na ilagay po ang Kongreso. And I'm very proud that tayo dito sa Senado ay nakalagay po ng napakaraming pahinang safeguards when it comes to the selection of the leadership of the Maharlika Investment Fund up to the 2 pages of penalties for the misuse of the fund. So, we're very proud of our version, although nagkaroon ng konting controversy kasi nagkaroon ng double, itong provision na ito, double, tawag dyan, yung prescriptive period, actually. And I think that was, as I mentioned and I explained, it was an honest mistake by the staff. Naiiyak nga yung mga staff namin nung nangyari po. I mean, it was just an honest mistake. Nothing, no sinister motive by any of that. But lesson learned, and one of the lessons learned in this experience is to make sure that we have a clean copy before we approve it on third and final reading, even if it's a certified measure. Para sa ganun, wala na pong pangyayaring ito.
Sir, on the part of the Senate, sabi mo, sir, sa pala, sabi mo, sir, very upbeat feeling. They're gearing up yung mga projects that they would like to invest on. But sir, offhand, ano-anong mga projects yung possible na unahin para kumita agad yung investment fund?
Some are, one of the discussions was actually on the issue of the building of the Cavite to Bataan Bridge. It will be a tolling bridge. So, malaking bridge yan. It's a huge bridge. That will connect Metro Manila to Cavite, through Cavite to Bataan. I think that will cut the travel time for many of the, maraming pumapasok sa Manila Port Harbor, sa ICTSI, at dinadala ito mga 40-foot, 20-foot containers pa sa Central Luzon, and also Bataan, AFAD. It will cut the travel time into a third. For example, what would be about a 3 to 4 hour drive, alam po ni Dave Torres yan, yung aking assistant dito dahil siya po ay taga Bataan. What would take about a 3 to 4 hour drive to Bataan will now take only 45 minutes passing through Cavitex and the new Cavite-Bataan Interlink Bridge. So, napakaganda nun. And madidecongest din po ang NLEX. So, sa inyo dito, sa ating mga kapatid dito na umuwi ng North, wala na po kayong makikita masyado mga malalaking container vans and of course mga trucks pwede nang dumaan dito sa Interlink Bridge na ito. So, exciting times because that will also be a wonder and feat. Di ba pinupuntan, ginawang tourist site na yung Cebu Bactan, yung bagong Cebu Bactan Bridge at ginagawa po nilang highlight ng Cebu City. I think it will also be a good sign to see and show that we are actually spending a lot of our focus now on major infrastructure projects. So maganda po yan.
Sir, para mas maintindihan lang, sir, ng public. How will the government or the sovereign fund paano kikita from
Well,
these bridges?
hindi naman kaya ng sovereign fund pondohan yan, no? Kasi, ano yan, hundreds of billions yata yung bridge na yan. So, magkakaroon po 170 billion, right? So, ayaw mo nang ilagay lahat ng pondo ng MIF dun sa tulay na yun. So, ang mangyayari doon, magkakaroon ng consortium. There will be, of course, private partners. Papasok ang Maharlika maybe as a 40, 50, or 60% investor. What's going to happen after the completion ng tulay, may toll po yan. Mangungulekta po ng toll fee. So, yung toll fee na yan, ay babalik po yung toll fee na yan sa Maharlika Investment Fund. So, kung 60% owner po sila ng tulay, so they will get 60% of the profit of the toll road. So, yan na po mangyayari dyan. So, lalaki, may magandang investment tayo. Siyempre, laki ng napakaraming laborers ang kukunin po natin dyan, manggagawa para gawin tong tulay na ito. So it's a force multiplier economic-wise. It's a force multiplier for Cavite and Bataan. Dadami po ang magkakaroon ng trabaho doon. At the same time, pagtapos na, dyan po maka-income ang Maharlika Investment Fund sa pagsingil ng tollways. Another thing that I can see, for example, if they invest into the NGCP, NGCP right now is earning so much money kasi transmission line yan, nakakabit na lahat yan eh. So automatic, magkakaroon din ng income yung Maharlika Investment Fund dyan sa pagsingil ng kuryente, di ba? Dahil meron talagang transmission fees na isinisingil po sa ating mga binabayad sa kuryente natin. So these are some of the examples, and I'm sure the economic team that will head the Maharlika Investment Fund will make sure that it is effectively and efficiently utilized ang pondo na ito. At kumita po ang gobyerno dito.
Sir, ngayong pirmado na ni Presidente itong MIF at batas na, chance ba ito para mawala na yung mga concerns at saka yung fear ng ilang mga economists from UP na nagsasabing hindi daw ito makatutulong sa ating economy?
I think, alam mo, halos lahat ng bansa dito sa Southeast Asia may investment fund. So tayo na lang nahuli. Ang kagandahan ng investment fund nito, makakapondo to ng mga proyekto na hindi na po natin kailangan mag-utang pa. For example, ang binanggit ko kanina, yung tulay, yung interlink bridge connecting Cavite and Bataan. Kung hindi po natin gagamitan ng MIF funds yan, the Maharlika Investment Funds, utangin natin yan from Korea or Japan. Diba? So mangutang na naman tayo. Tataas na naman, lolobo na naman ang utang natin lahat dito sa kwartong ito. So I think that's the problem there. Kaya ang kagandahan nitong MIF, it will not disturb the fiscal stability of our country. It will not add to the loans of our country and of every individual nation. Kasi mataas na po yung debt to GDP ratio, I think 63%. So ayaw nating dagdagan yan. We don't want to increase the debt to GDP ratio. So that's why we created this fund. And this fund will utilize the funding or the funds kept by government agencies such as Land Bank and DBP that are only in the bank. Nandun lang sa bangko po, hindi nagagalaw. Ang kita nila ay napakaliit, less than 0.001%. It's like cost of money. So now, we will utilize that fund under this law to be able to create projects, to create more jobs, to create economic activity without a single loan from any World Bank, IMF, or financial institution.
So sir, immediately, mararamdaman natin yung benefit o it will take time?
It will take time. It will take time. Kasi siyempre yung projects, di ba, itinatayo yan for several years. Siguro yung interlink bridge na yan will take about maybe 5 to 6 years. Probably matapos yan, 2028, 2029. So it will take time. But I think sound ang mga proposals ng ating economic team, and maybe we'll learn more during the SONA of the President.
So possible na next admin ang makikinabang dito, sir?
Possible, next admin. Unless it's other projects na medyo mas mababa ang shelf life or yung construction time. But definitely, next admin will be benefiting from the Maharlika Investment Fund. So ang tingin ng presidente nito long term for the next generation.
Sir,
Can I ask for water? Request ng water. Thank you.
Sir,
Sorry.
dagdag lang na tanong. Sir, medyo may kinalaman kay Ate Sel. Sir, big elephant in the room, sir. Anong pakinabang nung pangkaraniwang tao dito sa Maharlika Fund? It's an investment fund. Siyempre may mga nagsabi, wala tayong surplus fund, ba't natin ilalabasan, ba't di nalang ipantulong sa taong bayan? But now that it's already a law, anong pakinabang yan, sir?
Well, ang pakinabang niyan ay increased economic activity sa kung saan o kung saan gagamitin ng Maharlika Investment Fund. Kasi itong Maharlika Investment Fund, hindi po to mamimili ng stock sa stock market. Hindi naman ganun. Ang direksyon ng Maharlika Investment Fund ay lagay ang pondo na yan. For example, palalaguin nila, papagandahin nila ang agricultural sector. So, ang Maharlika Fund can be utilized to, for example, I'm thinking out of the box here, it's my personal opinion, but pwede nilang invest ito, for example, in agricultural industrialization or building of feed mills, building of rice mills in areas na walang rice mill. Government, we can get a government institution to run it kung saan yung ating mga rice farmers hindi na po kailangan pumunta pa sa mga biyahero, sa mga traders na or mga rice millers na kung saan pinagsasamantalan sila ng mababang presyo, 'di ba? So, isa po 'yan sa mga out of the box maybe may suggestions to the president. So makikinabang mga farmers dito. We can also as I said, major infrastructure projects kung saan libo-libo pong mga kababayan natin na mabibigyan ng trabaho dahil tatayuan nila itong mga malalaking tulay, mga malalaking kalsada, mga tollways. Malaking bagay din po 'yan. I think this will be, and of course, in the advent of the El Nino and climate change, ang gusto ni Presidente, binanggit niya sa akin I will also invest Migz on a lot of renewable energy projects para bumaba daw ang presyo ng kuryente. Dahil kung fossil fuel projects, napakamahal, imported pa, ang gusto niya, more renewable, more solar, more wind turbines, more hydroelectric projects, like his father before him that built all the dams. And I think we should also look at more water impounding projects kasi naalala nyo, bago nagkaroon ng sobrang daming ulan noong isang araw na nagbaha, prior to that, akala natin El Nino, mainit, nagkakaproblema tayo sa water rationing. Alam mo sa ibang bansa, napakasimpleng kanilang sagot yan. They have all small, medium, and large water impounding projects, mga dams, para magkaroon po ng sapat na supply ng tubig. Biro mo sa disyerto, sa Estados Unidos, sa Nevada, yung Grand Canyons, disyerto yan, walang tubig dyan. Walang ulan. It only rains maybe 1 week of the year. Pero dahil sa 1 week na yan, nailalagay po nila lahat sa isang magandang dam, which is the Hoover Dam, where they get all their water and electricity needs. So, kailangan natin pag-isipan yan in the light of climate change na baka magkaroon ng mga climatic changes na kung saan apektado ang ating water system and electricity supply. So, I think the President is excited to move towards that direction, more renewables, using the MIF as the fund source. Thank you.
Ni Senator Risa Hontiveros, marami na raw nagpaplano na questioning po sa Supreme Court yung Maharlika Investment Fund. Are you confident, sir, na mawi-withstand ng bill, ng law yung...
Yes. All the laws that we have passed in the Senate and in the House of Representatives, we always make sure that it will stand the test of scrutiny by the Supreme Court. It is beyond us to pass a law that we feel is unconstitutional. Ibig sabihin yan, we did a poor job and we did a bad job in passing these laws. So, safe to say, in my opinion, the Maharlika Investment Fund can withstand the scrutiny of the Supreme Court on this particular issue. Yes.
Sir, isa po dun sa mga sinasabi ng mga critics is dahil investment po ito ay possible pa rin yung risk, sir.
Yeah.
Yun, opo. So, with all the projects that you mentioned, sir, do you think, ano yung chance na may chance po ba talaga na malugi ito? What are the chances na mangyari yun?
Well, like any fund, I think the most important thing is piliin natin yung mga tamang tao na mamumuno nitong fund na ito, di ba? There's always a risk in any fund. But for example, ako, kung tatanungin niyo ako, may oversight function naman ng Senado at Kongreso, hindi ako papayag na ilagay niyo yan sa stock market. Dahil yung stock market, taas baba. Right now, medyo patay ang stock market, no? So talagang hindi tayo papayag na ilalagay doon. Kung infrastruktura naman, I think it is money well spent. Kasi gagawa tayo ng tulay. For example, yung MIF can also fund the One Visayas Bridge program, kung saan i-connect po natin yung Panay Island through Guimaras to Negros. And then from Negros, maglalagay po tayo ng tulay connecting to Cebu. And from Cebu, connecting to Bohol. Di ba? Ang ganda. So, ang mangyayari yan, toll roads din yan, toll roads. Pero ang kagandahan nito for tourism. And what is it? Why is it good for tourism? Because you can have breakfast in Tagbilaran and dinner in Boracay. Kotse lang dala nyo. Di na kayo kailangan lumipad pa. Di ba? Ilang oras lang yun. Dadaan ka ng gandang road trip yun. Breakfast in Tagbilaran, Bohol, drive ka going through Cebu, and then on the Cebu to Negros Oriental, passing through Dumaguete, di ba? And then from Dumaguete, you go to Santander, and then from Santander, Cebu, you go up, and then you go to, you take now the Roro going towards Bohol, and, tama ba sinabi ko? Iloilo. So basically, Panay Island, so basically, that will beef up tourism. All on these 3 bridges alone, that will beef up tourism. Pero ang lalaki ng pondong kailangan dyan. Hindi po kaya ng local government tsaka yung DPWH na pondohan yan. But if the MIF, they can do it. And because of that, tataas po ang turismo dito sa mga lugar na ito at economic activity. For example, Cebu, walang tubig. Nagdi-desalinate na po sila ng tubig. They have desalination plants that cost so much money. All they need to do is connect Bohol and Cebu. Why? Maraming tubig ang Bohol. Bohol has a lot of water system, yung spring water system na pwedeng ilagay through the bridge that Maharlika Investment Fund could build towards Cebu. So there's so many advantages that we can look into. Now we have a fund that does not restrict us from mere borrowing para baka tumaas ulit ang loans ng ating bansa. So, napaka-exciting po ng pondo ito, properly implemented. That's why the fund is only a good management team for the MIF.
Sir, dun sa mga example niyo po, for example, yung mga bridges, sir, pagka hindi toll bridge yung i-invest ng Maharlika Fund, paano po yung balik dun sa pondo? Kasi for example, if it's per economic activity or tourism or jobs, pero paano po yung mismong pera na babalik, yung return dun sa Maharlika Fund?
Yung economic activity na binanggit ko, yan yung parang outcome, no? That's the favorable outcome of an investment of the Maharlika Fund with these projects. Ibig sabihin, ito po ang secondary advantage ng projects na itinatayo dun, which is labor, jobs, yung increase in tourism, and economic activity in the area. Pero yung pondo ng Maharlika Fund dyan, lahat ng toll bridges na yan, kinokolektahan po natin ng toll fee. So yung toll fee na po yan, that will go back to the Maharlika Investment Fund. That's their income.
So sir,
So,
puro
babalik
toll
po
bridge.
siya.
Kasi I remember si Senator Cheese Escudero nung sa plenary,
Yes.
tinatanong po niya, so ibig sabihin ba puro toll bridge lang yung pwede nating
That's
gawin?
only my example, Pangga. I don't know what they're planning. I'm not part of the executive, pero yan po ang example na binibigay ko dahil yan ang pinag-uusapan namin sa economic team as possible investments of the Maharlika Investment Fund. It could be toll, it could be energy, as I said, renewable energy, para bumaba po yung presyo ng kuryente. NGCP, investments in NGCP, para lalong bumaba po ang presyo ng kuryente at nagkakaroon na po ng pondo para sa connectivity between Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao grid. Dahil hindi po gumagastos ang NGCP na yon. Tinatago lang nila ang pera nila, kabig ng kabig, ayaw nila mag-capital outlay. Of course, with the investment fund of Maharlika, they can now connect Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao electricity grids. Kasi may, stranded power in Mindanao. Ibig sabihin, ang dami namin power sa Mindanao, hindi namin kuryente, no? Excess na kuryente, hindi namin maipadala sa Luzon kung saan kulang. Which under the initial proposal of the NGCP when we created the franchise for the NGCP, sagot ng NGCP na i-interconnect itong tatlong main islands na ito. Hindi pa nila ginagawa. So, out of the sheer frustration of the President, sabi niya, let's invest.
Sir, last question na po for me. So, oversight function po ng Congress, pwede po niyang pigilan yung Maharlika Investment Corporation from investing in certain projects kapag ka nakikita ng Congress na pwedeng malugi?
Absolutely. We can recommend to the economic team favorable, but we can recommend na mag-ingat sila sa mga ganitong klaseng investments. And I think if you get a reputable professional group to run it, na financial team, na private sector, galing sa pribadong sektor, talagang aalagaan nila yung pondo na yan.
So sir,
In other
can
words,
that...
minimizing the risk. Hindi ko sinasabing walang risk. Well, minimizing the risk.
Sir, before the fact po, before sila mag-invest in a certain project, pwede pong harangin ng Congress or kasi yung nangyayari po usually is nag-investigate po after the fact, after na mangyari, for example, yung isang questionable na or irregularity. Pero dito po ba sa Maharlika Investment Fund, before mag-invest, pwedeng harangin or
Hindi naman
i-block
harangin.
lang?
Siguro pwede natin, we can invite them, we can convene the committee. Once you convene the oversight committee, papatawag po natin yung head ng MIF at yung team niya at tatanungin natin kung ano ba ang plano nilang investments para sa pondong ito at pwede na natin, kung meron po silang plano na ilalabas sa pondong ito. That's the oversight power of Congress. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
ISP, good afternoon
Hi,
po.
my dear,
Harleen
good
po from UNTV.
Yeah.
SP, the Department of Finance is eyeing to finalize the implementing rules and regulations po sa September. But how sure are we na hindi mag-veer away yung IRR from the spirit of the law? Given na SP may mga instances in the past, di ba, na yung IRR is a bit violative dun sa ipinasa ng Senado at Kamara.
I totally agree with you on that. Marami po tayong batas na ipinasa na nagkaroon po na ng kaibahan dahil sa IRR, Implementing Rules and Regulations. As a matter of fact, there was a proposal by Senator Tolentino one time to lead a panel to take it up to the Supreme Court. No, if they can actually do that, these government agencies on the implementation of the law. And I support that. I support Senator Tolentino's call na gumawa po tayo or questionin natin sa Supreme Court itong mga IRR na ito na sa tingin namin ay hindi po kasama sa batas. Maybe we should come up with a test case. I'll talk to Senator Tolentino about it, being the chairman of the Committee on Justice. We look for a particular law and we look for its implementing rules and regulations na hindi tumutugma sa batas. So talagang gagamitin talaga natin yung oversight function ng Kongreso. That's why we had placed we created a oversight committee for the Maharlika Investment Fund. Definitely, gusto namin makita ang IRR bago nila ma-implement ito and i-ratify or aprubahan ng iba't ibang ahensya na dapat ito po ay tugma sa batas. So, we'll be on top of that situation. Definitely.
Can I ask about Ladakh?
Sure.
Priority bills. 18 SP part na nung original 42. So how confident po ang Senate na yung 18 this year may papasa po yung mga priority bills?
We have a commitment na kasama ko po si Senator Joel Villanueva. 2 weeks ago, nagkaroon po kami ng LEDAC. Nagbigay po kami ng commitment on the part of the Senate of 20 bills na gagawin natin batas by December 2023. Bago tayo mag-December break. And as I mentioned, if I can read this again, just for the record, amendments to the BOT law, ito yung Public-Private Partnership Bill, yung National Disease Prevention Management Authority or yung CDC Bill, yung Internet Transactions, E-Commerce Law, Medical Reserve Corps, the Virology Institute of the Philippines, the mandatory ROTC and NSTP, the revitalizing of the salt industry, the Valuation Reform Act, the E-Government E-Governance Act, ease of paying taxes, National Government Right-Sizing Program, Unified System of Separation, Retirement, and Pension Fund of the MUPs, LGU Income Classification, Waste to Energy Bill, the new Philippine Passport Act, the Magna Carta for Filipino Seafarers, the National Employment Action Plan, amendments to the Anti-Agricultural Smuggling Act, amendment to the Bank Secrecy Law, and the Anti-Financial Scamming Act. So ito yung 20 na pinangako namin na by December, hopefully may pasa po natin ito. And of course, there's several pet bills of the senators na itutulak po natin. Isa doon yung aking legislative wage hike. So we'll have other bills that will be also passed by December that hopefully by December, that not necessarily are LEDAC bills, that we can call happy bills. Ika nga. Thank you.
Sir, follow up, balikan ko lang ng konti yung Maharlika. Aside from stocks, saan yung i-discourage na mag-invest yung MIC?
Yeah, because the stock market dito sa atin, comatose yung stock market natin dito. Hindi pa patay, pero comatose. Marami kasing gusto mag-delist, ibig sabihin wala nang sigla ang ating stock market. What other things? Investments in corporations that could be losing. Kasi pwede din sila po mag-invest into private corporations. We have to make sure that these private corporations are sound, di ba? Are stable. At bigla na lang kung may mangyari, baka mag-collapse yung mga companies na ito at mawawala po yung pondo natin. So, I think investment into private corporations, we should make sure that it is sound and stable investment for the Maharlika Investment Fund. For example, NGCP, okay lang. But if it's other companies, for example, na hindi pa tried and tested, mahirap. Pwede sa San Miguel Corporation, pwede din sila mag-invest doon. They can invest in the blue chip companies kasi maganda naman ang dividendo, may ibabalik din po sa Maharlika Investment Fund. Siguro, I will discourage them from coming up with investments into startup companies kasi ika nga startup nga yan. Delikado. Maybe they should limit it. My humble suggestion, try to limit it to public infrastructure projects na may return on investments. Public infrastructure projects that have a return on their investment.
Sir, and also, dun sa mga would-be appointees of the President, ano lang yung, if I may say this, ano lang yung special request ng Congress to ensure na yung MIC will be as effective as being projected?
What is your question? What are the safeguards?
No, sir. What should be the qualification of those
okay.
that
Well,
must be appointed by the President?
Meron, unfortunately, I don't have a copy of the bill, of the law. Because manilagay po tayo, dun sa ating panukala, o dito sa ating batas, meron po tayong nilagay na ilang pahina na qualifications ng uupo dito sa Maharlika Investment Funds. I don't have it with me right now and I don't want to guess. No? So, I can furnish you that copy para magkakaroon po ng shortlist ng Pangulo. So, parang dadaan po, parang JBC ito, Judiciary Bar Council, sa pagpili ng mga justices and judges. Ibig sabihin, they'll choose the best of the best, ibibigay po nila sa Pangulo ang top 5 names, at pipili ang Pangulo dyan sa mga pangalan na yan. So, dadaan ng butas ng karayom ang uupo bilang manager ni itong investment fund na ito. So, dadaan po siya ng proseso. The President cannot just, out of his top of mind, say that I want so-and-so to be head of the MIF. It has to go through a screening and selection committee by the board of the MIF. So, it will have to go through a process. I will furnish a copy. You'll all be getting a copy of the law
Pero
as soon as we finish this
Sir,
meeting.
sorry, just to clarify,
Opo.
pero yung Congress wala na magiging say dito, no? If ever, not really like a CA
Wala po
thing,
CA.
no? But
Wala po
just
CA.
a say about these appointees. Wala na.
Wala. Unless we convene the oversight we convene the oversight committee and recommend to the President among his top choices sinong pipiliin dun. So it's more recommendatory.
Sir, one last point. Kasi you mentioned a list of proposed measures that you will be prioritizing sa second
Yes.
regular session. How about resolutions? Kasi
Oh,
you have
yes,
the
of
standing
course.
resolution on UNGA, like for example, yung kay
Yes.
Senator Risa. Any
I support
priority
Senator
reso?
Risa's proposal on taking back to the United Nations General Assembly itong issue natin sa West Philippine Sea. Obviously, we should not stop at the arbitral ruling. Di ba? Na-award na sa atin yan, yung lugar na yan, exclusive economic zone ng Pilipinas. Ang problema, since ilang taon na? 2014 ba yan? 7 years. 7 years nang dinaan ng arbitral ruling na yan. At every day, there are violations of our exclusive economic zone by incursions, repeated incursions and bullying of the Chinese Navy and Coast Guard and even their Chinese militia ships, militia fishing vessels into our economic zone. Ang sabi ko nga, let's gather enough documentary, photographic, video evidence at isumbong natin uli sa United Nations na hindi nila itinutupad ang desisyon ng United Nations sa arbitral ruling. Of course, hindi papansinin ng China yan, and that is expected. But at the very least, dapat malaman ng UN General Assembly anong nangyayari dito sa ating lugar. Kung ipinakita po natin sa kanila ang mga base militar na itinayo ng ating kapitbahay na ang China dito sa mga lugar na ito, sa tingin ko, magagalit din po sila. They will be appalled at what they see with these military bases that have missiles, rockets, military equipment, soldiers, submarines, navy boats that are just in the doorstep of the Southeast Asian countries. And I said nga, sabi ko nga, nung nasa Reed Bank po sila, ang sabi po nila ay wala naman po kaming binabiolate dahil sa amin naman yung lugar na yon. It is totally illogical to conclude na lugar po nila yon, yung area na yon. Tingnan ko po, papakita ko po sa inyo yung South China Sea, West Philippine Sea. Nandito po yung Reed Bank. Yung Reed Bank ay 80 nautical miles from mainland Philippines, Palawan. 80 nautical miles galing sa northern Palawan kung saan yung El Nido, Calauit, Coron. Ganun kalapit nun. Tingnan nyo naman kung gaano kalayo yung China. Yung China is 600 nautical miles from this area. So, it just boggles the mind on their logic that sa kanila po itong lahat, which is their 9-dash line. Obviously, that is right beside the Philippines, which is part of the exclusive economic zone, and the traditional and historical fishing grounds of Filipino fishermen. Pag may barkong China dyan, makikita mo yan from northern Palawan. Ganun kalapit na yun. Papayag pa sila na ganun din ang gagawin ng ibang bansa sa kanilang teritoryo? Hindi. That's why I call it a creeping invasion. Tinadahan-dahan po nila palapit na palapit po sa Pilipinas at sa ibang bansa katulad ng Vietnam. So, I find it totally illogical for them to conclude that it is their territory. Just look at the map and you will see who is telling the truth. Napakasimple lamang po. And if we do not do a pushback, if we do not stand on this particular issue as a nation, baka pagising po natin bukas, nandun na sila sa El Nido, Palawan. At baka i-claim na rin po nila yan. If kung hindi po tayo tatayo at manindigan dito sa posisyon na ito.
Just a follow-up in relation to that, sir. Nakipag-meet si former President Duterte kay Chinese presidency. Ano, sir, bukod sa former president siya, tingin niyo ba, sir, may appropriate pa yun? Ano yung personality and ano yung weight ng
I just saw that issue. I just saw that news on my way here galing sa Malacanang. I don't want to comment kasi hindi ko po alam anong circumstances ng kanyang meeting. Baka that's a private visit lang. So, I don't want to make a comment on that particular issue. Basta importante, this coming week of the SONA, we will pass a strongly worded resolution of our disgust, of our frustration, of our anger as shown by all the Pulse Asia and other surveys of the Filipino people on the repeated incursion of our exclusive economic zone very, very close to the Philippine territory. And I'm talking about it is a hairline distance to the Philippines. So I think that is the most important, is the stand of the Senate on this particular issue. I know meron po mga senador na makikita naman po natin na hindi pabor dito sa posisyon na ito, but I would say 95% of the senators are in unison pagdating po sa condemnation nitong pagpasok at tinatawag ko nga creeping invasion of our nation.
Particularly referring to that, if you want to comment on that, yung personality, sir, ni former president, given yung closeness niya, or at least during his time, sir, with China, sir, may influence pa ba kaya siya tingin niyo sa government or dun sa decision making with...
Again, I don't want to comment kasi I don't know what he may have raised this issue in the West Philippine Sea in defense of the Philippines, but I don't know what had transpired. So mahirap mag-comment dun. So I wouldn't know. Ang akin lang is hopefully the Senate will come up with a solid stand on this issue. And napakalaga malaman po ng United Nations itong sa 7 taon na ito, lalong lumapit pa sila sa ating bansa. At kailangan po natin ng tulong ng international community na i-condemn po itong mga actions na ito. Yes, my dear.
Sir, follow up again. Sabi niyo, you will come up with a strongly worded statement next week on the week of the SONA?
Resolution.
Resolution.
Yes.
Can we call it parang resolution stating condemnation of the Senate as strong as that? Sir?
No,
Condemnation?
we are going to, it will be part of the whereas clauses. It will be basically a resolution in support of the move or requesting Philippine government to take this back to the United Nations, take this issue back to the United Nations, for them to see the continued incursions and the repeated bullying tactics of their gray ships and white ships. This is the Navy and Coast Guard within our exclusive economic zone.
Basically, you want us to report it to UN. This is different from UNGA, or it's the same thing, sir?
The
one
UN is the UN General Assembly.
So
UNGA
that's
is
it,
the
sir.
yeah,
The one
reporting
that
into
is
the United Nations. In other words, they came up with a arbitral ruling. And within the 7 years, that arbitral ruling has not been followed or respected. And we will show within the 7 years what has transpired since then. And the repeated incursions and reclamations in these particular areas, including reclamation on what is considered international waters. These are international waters where freedom of navigation should be under the UNCLOS respected. Kahit anong barko, taga France, taga Spanya, taga Japan, taga China, taga Taiwan, pag dumaan sila doon, there should be guaranteed freedom of navigation. Hindi yung pagdaan nila, may bansa na talagang china-challenge at hinaharang pa itong mga sea lanes na ito. These are international waters. This is in the middle of the West Philippine Sea, South China Sea area. So, unfortunately, kiniklaim nila lahat. We have to seek permission when we go through these areas. That is not right. Under the UNCLOS and under a civilized society, these areas are supposed to be free to navigate by any country.
Sir, just to be clear, the one that you will be passing on the week of the SONA is a different reso suggested by Senator Risa?
I have to read kasi her reso. That's why I support her in principle, but I have not seen the reso of Senator Risa. It's not reached me yet.
Next weekend, sir.
Pwede naman i-amend yun eh. So, Risa naman will be open to amendment. So we can amend the title, we can amend the whereas clauses. So, more or less, I'll have my staff anyway prepare also the essence of what we're trying to achieve here in that resolution. We don't have to file a new resolution. We can actually adopt hers with amendments. Yes. And we will continue to do so. While they are continuing this incursion, I know the DFA must be diplomatic, but the Senate does not have to be diplomatic. The Senate is an expression of each and every one of your sentiments. And again, no, let me repeat, ito yung Pulse Asia survey, 75% in favor, only 14% are not in favor of strengthening U.S. ties, ties between the United States and the Philippines militarily on the issue of West Philippine Sea. Nandyan talaga, security, military ties. Yan ang tanong, militarily. So, other surveys that I've seen, 80+% ang approval rating sa Estados Unidos dahil sa tulong nila sa atin. Negative po ang rating ng China. So, pinapakita lang po natin, I'm not trying to pick a fight, I'm just stating the facts. Pinapakita natin, galit na ang ating mga kababayan sa pag-aabuso nila dito sa lugar natin, na ating lugar ito. Itong Reed Bank, Pag-asa Island, yung Ayungin Shoals na napakalapit. Mas malayo nga Pag-asa Island sa Ayungin Shoals eh. Nasa gitna yun eh. Palawan, Ayungin Shoals, Pag-asa Island. So, mas malapit pa sa Pilipinas yun. Ngayon gusto nila paalisin yung mga Marines natin doon. Ano sila? Wishful thinking po yan. Matibay po mga Marines natin dyan. And we stand with them and we salute them.
Sir, dagdagan lang ulit, sir. Based dun sa binigay niyo, pinakita niyo documents, tsaka yung mga diniscuss niyo, sir, parang malabo na ba, sir, panghawakan ng administrasyon na kahit an inch of our territory hindi mawawala under this administration?
Yes, yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
That's why we're fighting back. We're pushing back. And the President agrees with us. I mean, of course, we have to wait for his official statement.
Add to that lang, sir. Satisfied pa, sir, kayo dun sa so far mga statements ni President Marcos na kinakailangan pa ng Senate na mag-come up with its own stand? I mean, bringing the issue
Independent body naman ng Senado. The Senate has always been the last one of the, what they say, the last bastion of democracy. We are not, the Senate has time and time again pushed for policy on issues of foreign relations, of industries. So we are a policies, I would say, we also help dictate policy for government. So I think it is important that we maintain this type of independence from the executive. So if the executive wants to remain diplomatic about it, we don't have to be held by that diplomacy, but we can express our sentiments as what we should do in sa atin. Di ba? That will be a failure on our part as a society and as a people and this generation to allow that to happen. So, if we don't push back now, like what Vietnam is doing, ginagawa ng Vietnam po nito na yun. Pino-push back po nila yung China. As a matter of fact, binan nila yung Barbie movie dahil sa 9-dash line. Di ba? Ganun katindi ang kanilang galit at nationalism at walang nag-complain. Nung sinabi po nila ibaban, yung mga kababayan nila hindi po nag-complain.
Sir, kung si Presidente mismo yung categorical na magsasabi, di ba mas may weight, mas may bearing para sa, baka ng China? Kasi parang may observation na
He's familiar with the issue. As a matter of fact, ilang beses niya na tinawag yung Chinese ambassador to Malacanang to explain what is going on. So, I don't want to short guess. Let's wait for the President's State of the Nation address. He might say something about the West Philippine issue, West Philippine Sea issue. Baka may sasabihin siya doon na magandang pakinggan at magulat po tayo lahat. So, I don't know. But we'll wait.
So far, sir, hindi naman po kayo nakukulangan dun sa mga statements so far ng palas?
No, because I'm actually very happy with what the administration is doing. Dinadagdagan po nila. Walang ipapadala na barko doon ng Navy at Coast Guard. Pero dinadagdagan po nila ang barko ng Navy at Coast Guard doon. That means they're in unison with what the administration is thinking, which is basically to protect our assets, to protect our sea lanes, to protect our fishermen from the harassment of our Chinese neighbors. So, definitely, kung opposite yung direction ng Pangulo dyan, walang mga barko nagpapatrol na galing sa Pilipinas dito sa mga lugar na ito. Pero dinagdagan pa nila eh. Dinagdagan pa nila. And as a matter of fact, nadagdagan din po ang military training exercises with the Philippines and the United States.
Sir, you mentioned Ayungin Shoal kasi di ba sobrang iniintay na lang natin na magiba yung barko doon. Yung Senate ba, from your end, do you intend to give an additional budget to the military
Absolutely.
for the construction of, say, our own artificial islands?
Absolutely, Sharian. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, magdadagdag po ako ng pondo for Pag-asa Island. On my personal capacity, gagawa po kami ng tinatawag natin institutional amendments na pagandahin natin yung mga government facilities doon, yung mga healthcare. Gagawa po tayo ng maternity care ward doon sa... Hindi po sila makakapunta ng mainland Palawan. Nanganganak na po sila doon. Wala po silang facilities. So, I committed to the authorities together with the local government na magdadagdag po kami ng pondo para sa healthcare facilities nila doon. And of course, sa classroom buildings, kasi giba na daw yung mga classrooms nila doon, para makita nila na minamahal po sila ng ating mga kababayan sa mainland at minamahal po ng gobyerno ang mga kababayan natin sa Pag-asa Island. We're also committed to give a desalination facility for the island. So, we're going to add funding for that. Sa Ayungin Shoals, we're discussing it with our friends in the military o paano natin sila matutulungan na additional protection for our Marines that are based in Ayungin Shoals. I cannot mention specifics because it is best not mentioned and malaman pa ng mga kalaban natin.
Opo. But definitely, there will be more funding assistance to these areas.
Yes, definitely. This year, yes. And we've also, the Senate also, through Senator Sani Angara, made a commitment to add to the NEP budget or the NEP or GAA budget of the AFP. So, in terms of additional modernized equipment, lalo na sa Air Force natin and Navy and Marines. Yes. Yep, I'm being told to wrap up. Balik ako ng Malacanang. Meron pong awarding ceremony that I'll be attending there at 2 p.m.
SP,
So last one? Yeah.
may mga maritime law expert SP like J. Batong Bakal is calling for pushing for the Maritime Zones Act. What are the chances, SP, na
I'm in
mapapush
favor of
sa
that.
Senate?
I'm in favor of that. As a matter of fact, gusto ko po mangyari yun. Para katulad ng ating kapitbahay na China, they passed a Maritime Act which under their local law, under their national law, batas nila, yung 9-dash line daw, lahat yung kanila. So, lahat ng dadaan doon, kailangan humingi ng permiso sa Chinese government. But dahil ginawa nilang batas yun, I think the Philippines should follow suit. The Philippines should pass a maritime law defining our exclusive economic zone that was awarded to us by the arbitral ruling of the United Nations. I think that's a good move.
Sa SP,
And
kailan
that has my support.
Kasi sa House SP, napasa na siya in May. In the Senate SP, possible ba itong ma-prioritize given the situation?
Kasama na yan sa priority measures of the Senate. Kasama natin. So, we'll pass it. At least I'll try to pass it. Who's the sponsor? Kain na tayo.
Sir pahabol. Sir, today ina-expect na maglabas ng decision yung International Criminal Court doon sa plea ng ating government against dun sa continuous investigation kina former President Duterte and Bato. Just in case ba na ang maging decision, ituloy yung investigation, as Senate President, may pwede ba kayong gawin to defend?
I don't want to preempt the decision of the UN. Maybe I'll comment after the decision is made. Pero habang hindi ko pa nababasa ang decision, yeah,
ICC.
what did they say? Ano?
UN.
Yeah, sorry. ICC pala. Gutom na ako. I am doing intermittent fasting, so I haven't eaten since 8 o'clock last night. So, sorry. Yung, hintayin ko
ICC.
na lang. Again. Hintayin ko muna yung decision ng ICC
Pero,
on this
sir,
particular issue.
Pero sir, si Bato, as member ng Senate, meron ba kayong pwedeng gawin?
Oh, they will always be accorded the protection and the protection of the Senate, unless he's otherwise proven guilty, di ba? And so, katulad ng ginawa po natin nung panahon ni Trillanes, di ba, na Trillanes, there was a case filed against him, a new case filed against him, and we also stood, as I was majority leader at that time, that said that unless there was an actual warrant for his arrest in a local court, we cannot physically give him up, because especially during the session days, he's protected by the Senate. Unless there is a warrant of arrest for his arrest, then he should be accorded the respect of a senator of the republic and be protected as such. So, no, if there's no, the problem is we have a local justice system.
Pero sir,
We have a Department of Justice. We have a Secretary of Justice. We have our own penal codes. We have our own laws. The usual route niyan is the ICC will apply with the local country kasi dapat yung magte-take custody dito sa case na to is the local courts, di ba? Ganun yan. When they find, pag naghabol po sila ng mga other personalities in other countries, the ICC has to always work with the local courts, with the local authorities. So I don't want to jump the gun. That question is for SOJ Remulla.
although sir, sinabi...
Yun, kain na tayo. Di naman ako.
sir, di ba may mga pending ditong resolution nun na kumu-question sa jurisdiction ng ICC? Do you think it's about time na...
Executive decision to be made, particularly on the jurisdiction of courts, DOJ na yun, DOJ.
SB, isa na lang po.
Last na, alis na ako hindi pa ako makain. Sige.
SB, yung basic education, hindi na daw po nakagraduate dun sa siksikan classroom, yung mga teachers, yung mga sweldo. Ano po yung magagawa ng Kongreso dito?
Meron tayong pinasa na EDCOM 2, di ba, yung Educational Commission 2. At ang ganda po ng mga recommendations ni Chairman Gatchalian, Senator Win, and Congressman Roman. Nag-usap nga kami ni Congressman Roman kanina at linapitan niya ako na sana yung mga recommendations ng EDCOM 2 ay itutulak po ng ating executive and legislative bodies in terms of budget allocation. Dahil kulang ang classrooms, kulang ang teachers, mababang sahod, walang kulang na allowance ang ating mga teachers, and kulang ng equipment. We are so backwards pagdating ng ating educational sector. The Vice President is doing her best she just assumed office for 1 year, but she's doing a yeoman's job, a very difficult job in trying to repair the damage that has been done, particularly in the pandemic, kung saan tayo hindi po tayo nag-face-to-face instruction. So, we have to fix that problem. I think kailangan natin tutukan talaga edukasyon ng ating mga kabataan. And I'm fully supportive. As a Senate, we will be fully supportive of the recommendations of EDCOM 2, particularly on the budgeting request for modernizing our equipment, increasing our classrooms, teachers' education and training. Kasi yung style po ng training nila ay minsan ay outdated na po. So, like for example, yung mga anak ko sa private school, they're doing Singapore math. I think we're still doing the traditional math, which is basically memorizing the equations and memorizing the multiplication and subtraction. Ibang bansa, iba na yung sistema ng edukasyon nila. So we have to really look at the recommendations of EDCOM.
Sir, isa na lang, pahabulan to. Nimpa lang to.
Absent
Sir,
siya
oo nga,
disqualified. Joke lang, Nimpa.
Sir, na yung online attendance sa hearing, wala na mga health protocol and antigen Titigil na daw po
Oh,
ba
wala
niyo?
naman siguro, Auntie Jan, I think,
I mean, sir, ang ibig niyo sabihin, papayagan pa ba yung mga online attendance or ititigil na?
that will be a prerogative of the chairperson. Pumayag po tayo ng online Zoom meetings for committee level, but it is, I mentioned to the chairperson, it is your prerogative. For example, Blue Ribbon, ayaw na ni Senator Tolentino ng online. Kasi ang hirap naman, totoo naman ang hirap naman kumuha ng, makahingi ng yung totoong, or mailabas ang katotohanan kung siya po ay nasa Zoom at may nagko-quote sa witness or whoever resource person na tinatanong nyo. So, it depends. I think if you're talking about, let's say, for example, bukas may hearing on my bamboo bill, if it's bamboo research and development, pwede naman siguro taga UP Los Baños, sa UP Los Baños na sa mag-Zoom at magsalita. Pero depending on the committee, if it's a committee that needs the presence of the particular resource person, then the chairperson can just declare na it will be face-to-face. Thanks. Session will all be face-to-face. Yes.
Kung makipag-coordinate yung ICC sa local court and there will be an arrest warrant against one of the senators, for example, Senator Bato, you will give him up. Pwede siyang arrestin.
Oh, putting words in my mouth. I'm hungry now. I'll see you guys later. Thanks, everybody.